Good evening. My name is Karen Hayes, and today we will be discussing e-learning today as it pertains to our work environment and growing thereof. We want to start with the definition of e-learning. The definition of e-learning is learning that is conducted via electronic or media devices. This is typically used with the internet, in association with the internet. Now, collaborative technologies that are used to help with e-learning would be mobile devices, smart boards, tablets, things of that nature. So initially, this would involve a presentation from the teacher so that you're familiar with what you're using and the purpose of it. And along the way, it would involve a combined effort of the teacher and the class to assure that this method is executed correctly and that everyone is familiar in using this method of technology. How to design e-learning. To create effective and concise plans that expand on teaching with technology, it would first be wise to make clear and definitive expectations and purposes for the classroom and the assignments that you will be presenting to your class. The second thing would be to give clear instructions in groups. It is important to give instructions in groups so that all the students get the same information, so that they can brainstorm together, that they can generate ideas, and that they'd all be able to go back to their group with the same information and not be given separate information. Another wise choice would be to put emphasis on small groups. With smaller groups, you have less room for miscommunication, and you'll have less issues as far as aligning schedules to get the group project done. So you want to put emphasis on the small groups. And one of the main expectations is to provide insight on etiquette guidelines for participation. Doing this would reduce inappropriate and unnecessary conversation and exchanges that decreases the value of the class as well as the dialogue and the enrichment that comes from it. With the instructional design, the influence on e-learning is that our current learning, our current state of learning right now comes through dance, music, or technological devices. With this in mind, it's important that the instructor designs their class and moves it to create an updated and relatable environment for students. We want to make sure that the environment is conducive and secured with devices that will support that learner and the structure and support that that student needs. We want that environment to embody the new ways of learning, and we want them to be comfortable with it. Now, with the leverage of technology and how that works with the classroom, teachers should be able to accommodate the learners that they have. There are hearing impaired learners, vision impaired learners, developmentally impaired learners, and emotionally impaired learners. To create an environment that supports this is imperative at this point. We want to assure that all of the devices that we have the necessary attachments that are needed to support the learners. And we also want to make sure that we determine, based on the students, what method of technology best suits them and their method of learning. So we want to make sure, whether it's a mobile device, if they're more prone to using a cell phone, we want to make sure that they have the cell phones available. If they're hearing impaired, need headphones or touch screens, we want to make sure that they have that as well. We want to make sure that our learners are in an environment that supports them and the way that they learn and what's most comfortable for them. We're going to get into the best practices for e-learning. Now, the first thing a teacher should do is establish the purpose and for e-learning. With technology, the purpose is to gain access to new information using different methods, and encouraging and supporting methods of communication and introduction to students. We want to introduce asynchronous and synchronous learning to increase engagement. The best practices for management of e-learning would involve establishing limitations with your students. Make sure that they are aware of what they should and should not do with the devices, and with timing. Make sure that a schedule is made. Make sure that students are aware of websites that are off limits and things of that nature. We want to make sure that students know what's going on. That helps to manage, that helps the teacher to maintain control of their classroom, and it also helps the students so that they will have that respect for their teacher as well. Another one is to establish the etiquette, the way that the students talk to one another, the way that the students talk to the teachers is very important. We want to make sure that everyone is aware of appropriate and inappropriate conversations. This was also discussed back in the design and structure of e-learning as one of the main expectations of the course. So we want to make sure that this is conveyed and clearly understood, which is also conveyed in the design. We want to make sure that there are clear definitions of expectations and the purpose of the classroom. By executing this, the teacher maintains respect for her classroom, and the students maintain respect for the teacher as well. One of the last things we want to talk about is the technological influences on learning. My personal opinion as it pertains to the technological influence on learning is that it's based specifically on the person. I believe that students, it's not necessarily an influence on learning as much as it is a convenience for students that are in need of non-traditional education. I myself am a parent. I am a full-time worker. I'm a daughter. I care for my grandparents. Having a non-traditional method of learning is very helpful for me in my lifestyle. Right now, my children are in their bedrooms sleeping. I've cared for my grandfather for the day, and all of my duties are done. But I would never be able to walk into a classroom at 11 o'clock at night. So my personal opinion of technological devices and e-learning being used as an influence, I would say it's not an influence, but a more non-traditional method for helping those who are in need of that in order to complete their courses or to further their lifestyles. I thank you for listening today. I hope that this information has been helpful. Have a great evening.